The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias in which people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability. It's related to the cognitive bias of illusory superiority and comes from the inability of people to recognize their lack of ability. In other words, people don't know how dumb they are. And that's especially true of smart people. David Dunning, one of the researchers in, the Dunning-Kruger effect, one of his quotes that people love repeating is the first rule of the Dunning-Kruger Club is you don't know you're a member of the Dunning-Kruger Club. I don't have a quote from Justin Kruger. I think he's kind of like Teller, the dude from Penn and Teller, who's always quiet. Funny. Whenever people talk about Dunning-Kruger, they immediately think of other people who have it. Very rarely do we see people taking it as an invitation to self-reflect. It's like there's a halo effect where because we're so good at doing this one thing and we feel so confident that we're so good at doing this one thing that we sort of assume that that same intelligence and confidence can be applied to other aspects of our lives where we really don't have enough information to be nearly as confident as we feel ourselves.
But then it's like a lot of shadow work, and I just made me think of like one technique from the realization process where, everything is starting with inhabiting the body and then also attuning to qualities in the body that are like foundational to our being. And one of them is like knowing, and we often attune to the quality of intellect or knowing in our head. Doesn't mean that that's the only place in our body that we experience that quality, but a foundational quality. It's not about knowing any particular thing. It's knowing itself, a raw quality of knowing. And, I can have in my head and I can attune to my own quality of knowing. Now, if I do that and I feel like it's really hard or like the internal space of my head feels small or that it's closed off at the front or something, then that's an indication that, hey, there may be a pattern of shutting down my raw ability of knowing that then leads to me being not confident in myself or compensating to try to reclaim that lost sense of knowing, in which case, the work there is to like practice inhabiting, see what's going on there, and then work with the content of that experience. Like, was there a time in my childhood where that first happened, where I shut down my knowing because a parent was, chastised me and said, like, you don't know anything, or something like that, right? That's just one technique. And obviously there's a bunch of therapeutic techniques that we can use to then work with the content of our experience. But as far as like a raw practice that really is something that I think a lot of people are familiar with in integral community of like basic meditation, that is a wonderful entry point in my experience to like kind of just feel out like, oh yeah, when I'm talking intellectually, I'm not actually present in my whole body. I'm kind of limited here and here. And this is the typical way that I engage with people.